All right, folks, here's a set of video notes over viruses and bacteria. First, we'll talk about bacteria. They are a prokaryotic cell. That means they don't have a nucleus. And they can do a lot of things to our bodies, good and bad, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there are three major shapes of bacteria. We have a rod-shaped, a sphere-shaped, and a spiral shape, and we use the Latin Bacillus, Coccus, and Spirillus to help us name those types of bacteria. So for example, Streptococcus, which gives us strep throat and makes us sick, it would be a sphere-shaped bacteria. So there is the bad bacteria that attacks our bodies and makes us sick, and it's just not good for us, but there's also good bacteria. That bacteria, you can find a lot of bacteria in our stomach that helps us to digest our food. And there's a lot of bacteria elsewhere that helps us to fight off other different, like funguses. It's easier to treat a bacterial infection than a fungal infection. But anyway, our immune system does most of the work for fighting bacteria. So if we have too much of the bad bacteria in our body, our immune system will try to take care of it with our antibodies. But sometimes it's just not enough, so we take some antibiotics. Most of the antibiotics that we take are broad-spectrum antibiotics, which means that it kills both the good and bad kinds of bacteria. It's not easy to make an antibiotic drug that attacks only one type of bacteria. The broad-spectrum antibiotics just go after anything that doesn't have a nucleus, basically. So if you've ever taken antibiotics before for some kind of bacterial disease that you had, you might have noticed that you might have gotten a little queasy. Maybe your stomach didn't feel very good, or you had some digestive issues. That is a sign that you took a broad-spectrum antibiotic because it was killing the good bacteria in your stomach. And it doesn't make you feel very good when it does that. But lucky for us, it grows back pretty quick. The problem with a bacteria, and we talked about this in evolution a bit, is that it mutates very easily and it reproduces very quickly. So if we take an antibiotic that kills a specific type of bacteria, then maybe that type of bacteria will evolve and the antibiotic won't hurt it. And then we'll still have that bacterial infection, but the antibiotic we're taking won't help fight it off. So that's why we usually take a broad-spectrum antibiotic. It kind of kills all of it. There's some research being done with bacteria. It's very easy to research in a lab because we can grow it very quickly. It's not difficult to grow, and it's not expensive to grow either. There is some research going on to help find a way to introduce a type of bacteria that helps to eat oil in an ocean. So if there's an oil spill in an ocean, they could introduce this bacteria to that system, and then that bacteria will eat away the oil and clean up the spill for us. But our current issue with that is that that bacteria then goes on and affects the life, like the fish and stuff in that area too. So they're trying to find a way to make a type of bacteria that will eat the oil without killing the sea life. And then we have viruses. There's been a lot of scientific debate about whether viruses are alive or not. Basically, the best answer we could come up with is that they're more of a parasite in that they're not alive until it enters a cell of a living plant or animal. All viruses have two things in common. They have some type of genetic information, whether it's DNA or RNA, and that genetic information is wrapped in a protein coating, which we call a capsid. That would be what's labeled as a head over here. So we have the DNA, and then it's surrounded by a protein to help keep it safe. Viruses can mutate, which ensures its own survival, even if our immune system tries to attack the virus. It could change a little bit, and maybe the immune system won't even recognize it as a virus. And viruses can be as simple as the common cold to as complex as the HIV virus. So if we talk about the life cycle of a virus, we have two different cycles, the lytic and the lysogenic cycle. A lytic cycle is where a virus comes in and it attacks a cell. There we go. The virus comes in and attacks the cell, it injects its DNA, and that DNA gets replicated, and all the viruses get replicated. And eventually, there's so many of them, it breaks out of the cell and kills the cell, because basically, once you break through the cell membrane, the cell will die. So that's a very obvious reproduction cycle for these viruses. You can see it happening. It's not very sneaky. The lysogenic cycle is super sneaky. It comes in, and instead of going into a normal body cell, it goes into bacteria, which doesn't have a nucleus. So it injects its DNA, and that DNA gets meshed around with the bacterial DNA, and then that bacteria just reproduces. And eventually, whenever the timing is right, the viruses decide to pop out with all of those new bacteria that have that virus DNA embedded within the bacterial DNA. And that's like a super sneaky ninja way to reproduce. It's also going to be very harmful to us. We actually don't have a way to treat viruses. We can only treat the symptoms of a virus. So like when you have the cold, you just go and get a cold medicine to help with the symptoms like the coughing and the runny nose and all that kind of stuff. The best we can do is to build up our immune system to be prepared to attack our virus, like a flu. The flu shot you get every year, it actually injects a little bit of the flu virus into you to help introduce that strain of the virus to your body. And then your body learns how to fight off that virus. Vaccinations for viruses are some of my favorite things to talk about in biology because, it's just really cool how it works. So some symptoms are easy to treat, like the symptoms for a cold, but the HIV virus is not very easy to treat. And if you haven't learned in health class, basically what happens with HIV is the virus enters your system and it attacks your immune system. So not only is it an issue because it's in your body, but it's an issue because your body can't fight it off because it's literally attacking the thing that would attack it. And then most people don't actually die from having HIV or AIDS. They end up dying because their immune system has gone down, and they die from something simple like the common cold because their immune system can't fight it off anymore. There has been some research done with viruses. They can be good sometimes, like with gene therapy. If you're curious about what that is, you're welcome to Google it. It's kind of a really interesting thing. But also sometimes we use a viral pesticide. Unfortunately, if we leave that pesticide unchecked, the virus could kill off the entire ecosystem. So maybe we set out a pesticide that was supposed to kill a worm, so it doesn't eat our bean plants. And that's great and all. It'll get rid of it. But anytime we put any kind of pesticide into a system, if we get rid of the worms, what's the bird going to eat? Well, maybe the birds will die out. And if the birds die out, maybe the fox doesn't have anything to eat. So it could really have some major impact on the ecosystem of that area. And that is all for your notes today. Let me know if you have any questions.